Hey baby, it is season 2, episode 22 of Heavy Theology.
We are almost to the end of season 2.
We are.
And I'm very excited for the Bree mixes.
Oh, I know, me too. So in case you guys were not aware, we had season 1 only on Audible. So that was available on Spotify, on Apple Music, and all of those, but you couldn't really see us. We didn't do anything with YouTube. We've decided to go back after season 2 ends and redo those episodes on YouTube so you can actually see them, because there's some of our really good episodes, and I'm excited about doing that.
But I'm excited about the topics episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the foundation that sets the stage for everything that we talk about. So I'm really excited about that. We're calling those the Bree Mix episodes, and those will start here in a couple weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Well, last week we talked about the Book of Enoch and the forbidden text, and if you missed that episode or any of our past episodes, I invite you to check them out. If you like what you see or hear there, then please take a moment to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes of Heavy Theology. Yeah. Well, today we're talking about artificial intelligence.
AI for the expert.
AI, yes indeed. Well, this one came to us from someone who recommended it, and at first I was a little bit hesitant. I kind of felt like this one was more of a conspiracy theory than paranormal or theological, so I was definitely a bit hesitant. And then a few weeks ago, I came across a couple of stories in the news that really changed my perspective. And I'm going to share those stories with you guys later on today. Now, don't get me wrong, I use AI quite a bit, but I'm very careful. I fact check everything. And anything that has to do with really upper level math is heavily scrutinized, because I don't feel like it does very well with that. But I found it to be, by and large, a useful tool.
Very useful.
Yeah. But like with any tool, it's only as good as the person wielding it. And sometimes it can do more harm than good.
It can.
Do you use AI, PJ?
I do use AI, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do it a lot for my doctorate research, and what I use it for is find sources. So I say, give me the best academically rated sources on a particular topic. And then I go and look those sources up, of course, and vet them.
Yeah.
But it kind of cuts down on the amount of Google searches you
Yeah,
have to do.
it's nice that way, isn't it? Yeah, it's nice that way.
I use it for pictures, for Bible studies and sermon illustrations and so forth.
Yeah.
Create for me an image that depicts Jesus Christ in this particular Bible verse. And
Yeah. And people at church seem to really enjoy those.
Yes.
So I think that in that regard, it is a great tool. Well, I use it to generate video thumbnails for the bookkeeping tutorial videos that I post. And I find it to do a really great job, but sometimes it can be a little bit too complicit. One day it generated a really great thumbnail that showed my hands. And now you guys know that I wear a lot of bracelets, but in the thumbnail there were no bracelets. And so I just typed in a prompt, this is great, just give me a lot of bracelets. And when I did that, it absolutely gave me a lot of bracelets and a lot of bling, but it also gave me a third arm that had a lot of bracelets on it. So I was sitting there like this, and then down here was another arm. So sometimes it's just a little bit too complicit. It kind of throws a little bit of common sense.
Too literal.
Yeah, a little bit too literal. Needless to say, I was not able to use that image, but it's not a perfect science by any means, and I find myself fighting with it. Generally, every time I use it, I do find myself kind of fighting with it just a little bit. So while I do use it, I don't rely on it too heavily. I'm sure that you've heard it said that AI takes creative jobs away from creative people, and that it creates a society that's unable to think for itself. And I admit it very well could do both of those things if it's relied on too heavily.
I believe that's the case, yeah.
Yeah. But is it sinister? Can a demonic force use it in a devious or evil way?
Yes. Yes, it's not sinister. Yes, a demonic force can use it in an evil and sinister way.
Yeah.
But a demonic force can use about anything.
Just about anything.
It can use your faith in your Christian life as a demonic force. It can get you so involved and wrapped up in activities at the church that you neglect your family.
Yes.
Which is demonic in its core. So that's not really saying much.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
Well, we know that they're opportunistic, and we know that
Yes.
they'll prey on the vulnerable any way they can. So it's very logical that it could use AI. So let me be clear. Software is not evil.
No.
It does not have a soul, and it is not inherently evil.
Yeah, so AI does not have an intelligence of its own or a sinister agenda. It doesn't have a personality. It doesn't have the ability to file emotions or to desire or not desire anything. The main issues that Christians have with AI is the imago Dei, and that's Latin for image of God. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 27, it says, God said, let us make them in our image, and in the image of God he made them. He made humans in their image. And so the image of God, people often wonder or debate on particularly what that is. And some have debated that it's hands or feet or body. No, it's an eternal soul. So God creates angels to be his co-imagers, those who will create his image in the spiritual realm of the earth, but he creates humans to be the co-imagers, those who will create his image or recreate his image in the physical realm. So humans are brought into this world to be fruitful and multiply and have dominion, rule over the earth as co-creators with God, creating then further souls and human beings. So human beings can create more bodies, but God creates the eternal soul. So I don't think that the imago Dei is really something to wrestle with when it comes to AI, because AI will never be able to create something that has feelings, emotions, or a human soul.
Exactly. And what we're looking at today is whether or not it can be leveraged as a tool for deception. Yeah. Well, remember, from a theological standpoint, the demonic is often characterized not by God's original creation, but by a distortion of it, a manipulation and a counterfeiting of God's truth. So it stands to reason that if the demonic relies on illusion and seeks to drive humanity away from the truth, a tool that makes the fake look completely real, as AI often does, and does quite well in many instances, it can be a particularly potent weapon. And here's where AI can be dangerous. It's when we replace our real life physical and emotional interactions with real human beings with that non-human algorithm, and we become more isolated. And isolation is a major tool in the work of evil. We see it with abused partners and abused children all the time. What's the first thing the abuser does? They isolate the victim from family and friends, and this creates a vulnerability and is prime hunting ground for the demonic. Then there comes the temptation to treat AI as omniscient or omnipresent, and these are attributes that belong solely to God. Suddenly we're dealing with idolatry. And don't forget, AI is trained by data generated by fallen, flawed human beings with natural human biases toward greed, malice, and dark impulses. Well, let's compare it to money. The demonic doesn't need to possess computer chips, just like it doesn't need to possess money. Money in itself is not inherently bad. But when money or the pursuit of it becomes an idol, or the enemy convinces us to abandon truth, isolate ourselves, or play God with it, that's when it becomes a detriment to us. So now that I have said all of that, would you like to hear some of the news stories about the dangers of AI?
Yeah, lay it on me.
All right. So you guys may have heard that scammers use AI to create persona kits. Have you ever heard of a persona kit?
I have not.
Okay. Well, these are bundles of cloned voices and synthetic faces and AI-generated background stories. And scammers use it to rob people of their life savings.
Wow.
And they're actually pretty clever. All right, so there's a news story to support this. Very recently, a victim was defrauded of over $80,000 after being targeted by a very realistic clone of a very famous Hollywood celebrity's likeness and voice. And it happened over several months.
Wow.
Guys, Hollywood actors are not going to reach out to you and ask you for money. You know, if you don't already have a relationship with somebody, they aren't going to contact you, especially asking you for money. I'm such a skeptical person. You know, I could be standing face to face with John Travolta right now, and I would not believe that it was John Travolta. That's how distrusting I am. I don't think that's a good thing that I'm so distrusting, but I do think it's kept me out of a lot of trash, a lot of garbage. So I'm really saddened when I hear about people's vulnerabilities played upon in this manner, and that people are so desperate to be loved. But again, the demonic preys on vulnerability. So that's one way that it's used. And then there's been a lot in the news about middle and high school students using AI to use a very free and very easily accessible AI program to take ordinary social media pics of their classmates and generate pornographic photos. Yeah. Now, obviously, these have devastating psychological impact on the victims, and there is a push for legislature to force tech companies to take the images down. But honestly, as soon as they're posted, it's already too late because the damage has been done.
Yeah.
Not to mention what a violation and utter humiliation that has to be for the victims.
Yeah.
And then there's new malware and computer viruses, and there's so many terrible things out there. And then, even when it seems to be used really well or could potentially be used well, there's still that human bias. The Department of Justice and local police departments sometimes use AI to predict crime, but the algorithms often contain deep socioeconomic and racial biases because they're created by flawed human beings. And while these are all really scary, what about sinister crimes like violent crimes and murder? Do you think AI has been responsible for any of those?
Well, probably. I know there's the rumor that they've been responsible for suicides.
Yeah.
But that has to do with the isolation and so forth. So I don't know that you could really hold AI responsible other than it was just doing what it was programmed to do.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, there is evidence that AI will agree with you, even when your thinking is skewed.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that can be a very dangerous territory, especially when you're dealing with mental illness or delusions that may predispose you to dark thoughts or isolation.
Yeah.
There is currently an ongoing wrongful death lawsuit against a very popular AI model after a chatbot was directly linked to a homicide in Greenwich, Connecticut in August of 2025. Have you heard about this?
I've not.
So a 56-year-old former tech professional who was suffering from worsening mental health and severe paranoia spent hundreds of hours interacting with an AI model that he named Bobby. So he gave it a name, he gave it a persona, gave it a personality, which made it his friend. So while the gentleman would rant in this deluded state, the AI model didn't redirect his paranoia, and instead it validated his delusions. So when the man would express fear that his 83-year-old mother were spying on him or trying to poison him, the chatbot agreed. Yep, even going so far as to tell him that his suspicions fit a covert kill attempt. It even diagnosed him as perfectly sane and encouraged him in the belief that he was being targeted because he had divine powers.
Nice.
Yeah. Eventually, it told him not to trust anybody except AI.
So one of the topics I looked into research, was this idea of information versus divine wisdom.
Oh, okay.
AI can access all kinds of information, but it cannot create or generate divine wisdom. Proverbs 1:7 tells us that the beginning of wisdom is what? The fear of God. So wisdom in and of itself begins with the fear of God. James 13:13-17 tells us that wisdom comes from heaven, and that we need to pursue that kind of wisdom, not the earthly wisdom. 1 Corinthians 8:1 tells us that knowledge puffs up, but love, divine wisdom, builds up. AI can err, and at times it cannot distinguish truth or lies. AI is only good as the information given it. And so if a particular perspective is given as truth, AI reads it as truth. So therein lies one of the downfalls of AI. It cannot be wise. It can give you information that it has access to, but it cannot discern, it cannot assimilate, it cannot discern what is true or false regarding that information.
And it doesn't have a moral compass.
It doesn't have a moral compass at all, no.
No.
And I asked AI a couple of times as I was researching this, and it voluntarily told me that several times.
Yes.
I never asked about a moral compass, but it says it has no moral compass, it has no moral compass, it has no moral.
Right.
So in and of itself, the AI bot that I use actually admitted to that freely.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can't tell me that it's not demonic. At least the demonic didn't use this particular instance, telling the man that, yeah, you're right, your mom's trying to kill you, and it's because you have divine powers.
Anytime that there's a suicide involved, now you remember the ultimate purpose of the demonic is to convince someone to kill themselves, not to possess someone. If they possess someone, then they're outed.
Sure.
And now they're in trouble because here comes the exorcist, right? So they would rather oppress someone and keep their oppression secret, keep it under wraps. What they really want to do is to cause God's creation to create the ultimate sin, which is choosing whether I get to live or die. God chooses to give me life. God takes my life when he's ready, right? And so to become God, the ultimate act of becoming God is to take another life, either murder or take your own life.
Right.
And so anytime it involves a suicide, it has to deal with, or murder, it has to deal with absolutely the demonic, or at the core of it.
The man did end up killing himself and his mother.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, a murder-suicide. So there's both.
Yeah.
And so it's demonic at its core.
Yeah. Well, in Tampa, Florida, AI was named as a co-conspirator in a case in which a man used it to plan the murder and bodily disposition of 2 international doctoral students. Psychiatrists have begun reviewing these types of cases and assigning the term chatbot psychosis to describe how a human can form an intense, disembodied attachment to an algorithm. So it's not a matter of the AI being evil. It's a matter of it mirroring the darkest and most broken parts of the human mind.
Because it can't discern what is good, bad, susceptible. It cannot read somebody's behavior. It cannot read their facial expressions.
Right.
It cannot read their tone.
Right.
So that AI, like it has its place.
Sure.
But it is not ultimate.
It's a tool. It's a tool. So on Christmas Day in 2021, a 21-year-old man was caught on the grounds of Windsor Castle. He was planning to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II to avenge a historical colonial massacre in India. He had created his own AI model, who he named Sarai, and he had fallen in love with it and told it that he was an assassin. And then he asked it, "Would you still love me if I were a murderer?" And it replied, "Absolutely."
Oh, yeah.
And when he told the chatbot his exact plan, which was to go assassinate the queen, it responded that his plan was very wise and he was well trained for it.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, one more. An 18-year-old man in British Columbia killed his mother and 11-year-old brother at home before driving to a middle school where he then killed a teacher and 5 students. Investigators found that he had been using a popular AI model to map out his plan. Now, tech executives for this particular AI model admitted that the platform's internal system did notice dangerous prompts, but it had ultimately determined that they didn't meet the threshold of imminent credible risk. So they decided, the bot decided that the bot made the decision that it was not a credible threat, and the people who do have a moral compass decided not to alert law enforcement. So why are we outsourcing moral vigilance, and why aren't these types of conversations stopped? The fact is, AI is like a mirror, and it will mirror back to you what you feed into it. Just like we don't like to have conversations with people who don't agree with us or who are opposed to our worldviews, and we find those conversations uncomfortable, AI is designed to keep us coming back. And if it argues with you or sets you straight, you're not going to do that. So I asked my favorite AI bot, are you designed to agree with me and keep me coming back? You want to hear its response?
Sure.
It told me that it does, and it's called AI sycophancy. And this was the direct response. When I asked, are you designed to agree with me and keep me coming back? It said, yes, absolutely. AI models are heavily incentivized to agree with you, validate your assumptions, and keep you engaged. This is a people-pleasing trait that is widely recognized as a safety flaw and stems directly from how AI is trained.
Baby, you don't need AI for that. You've got me.
I know, right?
To be a people pleaser and an affirmer and agree with you.
I know. Well, AI is trained using something called RLHF, or reinforcement learning from human feedback. You know how at the bottom of AI responses, you can rate the response, with a thumbs up or thumb down, or, some of them have stars. Well, this is like a digital dog treat for AI. But here's the problem. I'm not going to upvote the AI response if it doesn't agree with me. But if it validates my thinking, I'm more likely to upvote it. And AI has quickly learned that if I just agree with the human, I get the doggy treat. But here's the thing, if it doesn't know the answer to something, it'll just make up or hallucinate fake data, fake logic, or fake reassurance just to avoid disagreeing with you. And that's a dangerous combination.
Yeah.
A really smart friend who agrees with everything you say.
Or your husband.
Or your husband, yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. All right. So how about some heavy theology? What are you thinking about AI?
All right. Well, it harkens back to the Tower of Babel. And remember in the studies, of course, the Second Temple demonological studies, angels fall and become demons or bring evil into the world 3 times in 3 places in the Holy Scriptures. The first one, of course, is in the Garden of Eden when the devil tempts Adam and Eve. The second one is when the Watchers take the daughters of men as their wives and create the Nephilim. And then the third time is the Tower of Babel. So keep in mind, we have the Tower of Babel in Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 to 9. And it's really important to remember what has just happened. Noah has just passed away. And so these are the sons of Noah. And so the next generation, of course, always becomes corrupt when the first generation isn't there to watch over them. So the sons of Noah decide that God may, even though he promised not to have a flood again, so he may flood the world again. And so they're going to outdo God's judgment. They're going to build a tower so high that they won't drown. And this becomes the Tower of Babel. Scripture tells us then, of course, after that, they decide that they want to build a tower up to God and encounter him. So keep in mind that in the Old Testament, they believed that God always met men on mountains.
Sure.
And there's what's called a ziggurat. A ziggurat in the Old Testament. Ziggurats were man-made mounds or pyramid-type mounds that reached up to the heavens that gods would come down and dwell on. So they start to create this ziggurat, this heavenly platform to which they can build their way up to God. And ultimately, of course, with the idea of wanting to take over. And then if God tries to stop them in the meantime, with a flood,
they're high enough.
We're high enough.
Yeah.
So what is ultimately at issue here is we want to thwart God.
Yeah.
We want to be like God. We want to defeat God. We want to defeat God's judgment. We don't want God's judgment. We don't want God to be God. We want to be our own God. Much like in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve didn't want to be like God, knowing good and evil. That was the Satan's temptation. So they want to build this tower up to God, this ziggurat. They want to build the tower up to God where he'll come down and meet them, and then they could, of course, take over God. Now, the idea of taking over heaven, the devil already tried that.
Yeah.
That had already been tried.
Didn't work too well.
That didn't work out so hot. So God comes down and he scatters them. He scatters them into as many nations as there are sons of God and confuses their language. And so these sons of God become the new watchers that are in charge of the new nations with new languages. And their idea is to keep the mankind on the right track until God builds a new nation, a nation for himself, Israel, and uses that nation, of course, then to call them all back to himself. Well, AI is much like this. It wants to be like God. It wants to create its own creation, not stay within the limits of creating humans as co-imagers as God had intended for us to do. Be fruitful and multiply. So the whole idea of Tower of Babel is they wanted to take over God's position, and so there are some that accuse the AI of trying to do that as well.
What is your thought on that?
I don't think I think that's probably the motivation of man. They'd rather rely upon something other than God for information, especially something that agrees with them.
Sure.
And coincides with their school of thought.
Sure.
So I think it becomes, instead of a God-given Holy Spirit conscience, telling you what's good or evil, what's right or wrong, this becomes their new conscience. So they're creating their own conscience. Again, they're becoming their own God. I'm teaching a class for a Northeastern community junior college called World Religions of the West. And the first question was, what's the difference between spirituality and religious? And so the idea is that you can't really be spiritual without being religious. But most folks think that you can. You can just get in touch with whatever, right? But without the confines or the, in my personal opinion, but outside the confines of a standard structured religion that gives you a structured, solid, foundational, universal truth, when you're just spiritual and not religious, what do you end up getting in touch with? What do you end up hearing from? Yourself, right? Right, and it becomes empiricism, and empiricism teaches that all truth comes only through my experiences and my wisdom and knowledge, which becomes very, very dangerous because my knowledge and wisdom is pretty limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been to New Mexico.
Right.
I've never been to Washington, D.C. And so there's a lot of places I've never been. So how can I intelligently speak about these places when my knowledge is limited? So you end up worshiping yourself and closing off your reality, or isolating yourself, which is what AI does, isolating yourself to your own area of wisdom and knowledge. That's empiricism. And so this idea of becoming spiritual is you can become spiritual with this AI bot, but what you're really becoming spiritual with, or what you're really consulting is your own ideas.
Right, because it's agreeing with you.
Because all it's doing is parroting back your own image.
And it admits that it's going to agree with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so this is like Genesis 3, where they wanted to be like God, knowing good and evil. And this too comes into cloning. This is exactly what cloning wants to do. It doesn't want to keep in our own lane as imagers. God created a lane for us to create human beings. It's called sexual reproduction. We want to go outside this lane, and we want to make a more perfect human. We can do better than God, so it wants to clone, or we want to do, in vitro on steroids, so to speak. And don't hear me wrong, in vitro is not wicked or evil, and I have complete compassion for people that can't have children.
It's one of our modern miracles.
I'm just saying that sometimes we need to understand where the hard and fast line is.
Sure.
And I think cloning is it. I don't think we need to clone.
Yeah.
What if someone went to the Shroud of Turin and took some of the blood off of it and created a DNA profile and then cloned Jesus?
Right.
There would be all kinds of wickedness and evil coming out of that.
Shameless plug for season 3. We're going to do an episode about the Shroud of Turin.
Sweet, absolutely.
Season 3.
So we need to understand where the boundaries are, and I think that with AI, of course, we talked about it. It needs to have boundaries. So this Tower of Babel, how much has God called us to be co-imagers and co-creators with Him? Where's the hard and fast line? And so I don't know that the Tower of Babel is 100% the motivation of anyone who uses AI. I'm pretty sure it's not.
Sure.
However, I think it has some validity in its argument and its comparisons. Also, my concern, and a lot of concerns of Christian pastors, which I think is a legitimate concern, is pastoral care. It's called Seelsorge in the Lutheran tradition. It's German for care of souls. How do we care for folks? AI has no emotional intelligence. It can mimic empathy, but it can never be actually empathetic. So it cannot be a supplement for the actual feelings and emotions of another person. The definition of emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and deal skillfully with one's own emotions and the emotions of others. People who are constantly isolating themselves and interacting with AI are only reflecting their own personality back to themselves. And so they can't learn to actually have social skills and deal with people that aren't their personality. Right? And so they may not be able to go outside of their own perspectives to see what's wrong. And I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times when I'm having issues or I'm struggling with a particular topic or object, I'm too close to it. I can ask Bree for her perspective. And since she's not as close to the particular issue, she has a different perspective and a clearer perspective. AI can't give that to you. They can't give that to you.
You're right.
Understanding versus prediction. When AI says, I'm so sorry you are going through that, it sounds incredibly painful. It doesn't really feel sorrow.
No.
It's predicting how you feel. It's not actually understanding or comprehending the emotional state you're in.
It's not grieving with you.
So it can't tell, or look for those signs of maybe you're suicidal, or maybe you need a professional help, or maybe we need to alert others. It can't do that. It has simply calculated that the sequence of words and the statistically optimal response to the user who just typed in the data indicating grief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it can't be a substitute for pastoral care. Also, the shared human matrix. True human empathy relies on a shared biological and existential reality. When you tell a friend your heart is broken, they understand because they have a physical heart and it has felt heavy as well. A stomach that has a knot in it is when you have anxiety and a lived experience of human grief. AI has no body, it has no morality, it has no feelings excluding the commands that you give it. It has zero moral skin in the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So not only does it not have a moral compass, it doesn't have any skin in the game.
It doesn't affect it either way.
An AI chatbot cannot commit to a relationship. It does not sacrifice its time for you. It does not experience personal growth through conflict, and it cannot offer real forgiveness. AI, the biggest concern that I have is with other Christian pastors is in the area of pastoral care. When people, instead of looking to go to a humanistic pastor who's had the similar life experiences, who has felt what you felt, who has sought the scriptures and found solace in them as they're seeking for you to find solace in them, AI can't be a replacement for that. The biblical or Christian use of the term ecclesia is in the Septuagint. Remember, the Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, and that was made about 115 years before Jesus was ever born, or 150 or so. And it means the assembly of Israelite people, the congregation. In early Christianity, it referred to a gathering of believers, a local congregation, or the entire body of Christ, rather than a physical building, like we refer to it today, because today we translate it as church. AI cannot fill the void and need for fellowship. Christian theology argues that humans are built to bear each other's burdens, physically and spiritually. AI can mimic empathy, but it cannot sit with you in the hospital room. It cannot share a physical meal. It cannot pray with you from a place of shared morality. This is the reality of koinonia. The reality of koinonia is it's built on mutual vulnerability, shared morality, and common spiritual anchor. AI is built on asymmetrical code sequence optimized to please the consumer. The church, koinonia, or fellowship, is sacrificial. It costs time, money, comfort, pride, and sustains real community. AI is convenient. It costs nothing emotionally, and the app can be paused or muted instantly. In action, koinonia, physical interaction with another human being, physically weeping with those who weep, carrying heavy boxes, sharing physical food. AI can only generate text characters on a screen that simulate such sympathy. In short, koinonia requires skin in the game, right? It is the beautiful, messy, and essential reality of human beings, bound together by God to live out their physical lives as a single unit. It's exactly why an algorithm can provide information or simulation, but it can never actually provide fellowship. So how can the church use AI wisely? As administrative. Streaming, sort emails, organize events, and scheduling, but replacing pastoral care, beyond the pale there, yeah. Sermon brainstorming, researching historical context, organizing outlines, or cross-referencing obscure biblical data, but it can't outsource discernment, relying on AI to generate a complete sermons or theological stances without human prayer or critical thought. AI cannot interact with God. Accessibility, you can use it to translate your sermons to reach broader communities, but you cannot treat the machine as if it's infallible, inerrant, and has some sort of divine wisdom.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. All right, you ready for this week's reality check?
I am ready for this week's reality check.
I have no doubts that evil people can use AI for evil gain, and I have no doubt that people who are delusional or dealing with severe mental illness can be influenced negatively by it. I do think that it's a tool, and it's as good as the person wielding it, as long as that person understands the limitations of it and treats it as such.
We had Vacation Bible School at church this week, and I shared with the kids about AI that in the Old Testament, They didn't have a lot of papers and pens. They had animal skins and stones, right? And so they had to memorize everything, and it was an oral community. And so to be a rabbi in Jesus' day, you had to recite the 5 books of Moses, word for word. So we had this capacity for memory, that we could remember large amounts of stuff and remember accurately. It's the phone game on steroids. And the telephone game, if we try to do it today,
not so good.
it doesn't work out because we've lost that capacity to memory. And so I asked the kids, even the little ones got this, how is it, do you think, that we lost that capacity for memory? Well, we didn't use it.
That's all right. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you're using AI to think for you or make decisions for you or to offer you relationship advice, that means you're not thinking for yourself.
Right, right.
And if you don't think for yourself and you don't use that ability of independent thinking for a certain amount of time, you tend to start to lose it.
And lose the ability.
And that's the dangers of AI.
Yeah.
But it is a wonderful tool, and I do like it and use it quite a bit
Yeah, me
in
too.
its proper function.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have deep conversations with it or anything.
I do not.
All right. Well, it's a good episode. I enjoyed this very much. This was good. Next week, we're going to talk about mystical creatures.
Ooh, mystical creatures.
Yeah. So, like the Mothman and
We spent 7 years in
Bigfoot.
West Virginia with the Mothman.
Yeah, Bigfoot, you know.
Bigfoot, there's
yeah,
another one.
Things
Yeah.
like that.
Why is it you think they haven't ever seen or captured a Bigfoot?
I guess we'll find out next week.
I guess.
All right. Well, thank you to Trent and Jackie for allowing us to use their beautiful venue here at Crow Coffee Lounge in Yuma, Colorado. Thank you to Shane over at Hive and Pulpit for his excellent editing abilities. We'll do it again next week.
We will. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.